021 of the codified ordinances, the meeting will be open to the public electronically and virtually via the internet and television. And that is the council statement. Madam Clerk, will you please dispense with the journal?
Minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with the journal approved. Seconded by Councilmember Spencer. I'm sorry. Slife.
Okay.
Right. Let me reread that. By Councilmember Slife, that the reading of the minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with the journal approved. Seconded by Councilmember Spencer.
All right, thank you. We'll now go to public comment. First, and I'd ask all council members to please turn and acknowledge the public commenters. I'd ask the public commenters to please adhere to the time that you have before you. When you see yellow, that means to wrap it up. And when you see red, that means to end it, okay? The first person we have is Basma Hamid from Rocky River. They're here to talk about safety for children in Cleveland, not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Hold up, I'm gonna reset. Reset. Do we have her microphone? Can we hear you? Try it. All right, there you are.
Hello.
There you go.
Good evening. The U.S. government is shipping new armed vehicles plus 23,000 bombs to Israel to kill more and more children. So far, more than 40,000 people have been murdered in cold blood in Gaza, more than 14,000 children. Congress has approved, aside from the annual $4 billion a year, $3.8 billion with pending $18 billion in military aid to Israel. Ohio, Cuyahoga County, and Justin Bibb all combined spent $22 million on Israeli bonds. None of this spending is benefiting the American public in any way, rather than taking away resources from the American families. Do you know what else taxpayers pay for? Wrongly convicted persons for crimes they have not committed. According to National Registry of Exonerations, Cuyahoga County specifically is among the top 10 counties in the nation for exoneration, and nobody held accountable. The culture of impunity will keep bad actors and careless judges from being held accountable for their role in unjust convictions. Did you know Israel offers universal health care to their citizens and permanent residents, while average American citizen is uninsured? Children cannot walk to school due to lack of safety. There are abandoned buildings, homes, commercial buildings, almost on every street on the east side and west side of Cleveland. Streets and sidewalks are not safe to use. They are full of potholes and lack lighting. The crime rate is on the rise. Yet here we are giving billions of dollars to another occupying regime full of illegal settlers. Our daycare, school programs, health care, college education are not available to everyone because of income guidelines. Therefore, all the taxpayers' money should not be stolen and spent on irrelevant issues outside our communities. Rather than it must be spent on the community. It is coming from the community and must roll back into the community for the purpose of establishing new developments for the public. Building new vocational schools for youth that includes, but not limited to, sports, language, technology, construction, auto mechanics, to get them out of trouble and teach them some skills to get into the workforce. Maintaining before and after school programs to care for children that aged out of daycare programs. Also investing in new skillful programs for juveniles who have just been released from jail. The emphasis should be considering rehabilitation rather than punishment.
Time.
Building more rehabilitation and community service centers for nonviolent offenders
Time.
is more beneficial to themselves and to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Chairman Fahim from the Buckeye area to talk about State of the Youth Part 2, representing New Era Cleveland, not being paid by anyone. Just for clarity, only one person is able to speak at
Correct.
this time, okay?
Absolutely. How y'all doing today? Good? Okay, State of the Youth Part 2. Experts are expecting or anticipating for us to have one of the most violent summers in the history of Cleveland, involving our youth in particular. So we, together as a collective, are extending a partnership to Cleveland City Council, along with our youth that are incarcerated at CCJDC. We want to comprise a ceasefire resolution here in the city of Cleveland. Our organization, New Era Cleveland, is going to implement and enforce this ceasefire resolution in the city of Cleveland, right? And one thing I realized, following what's going on in Detroit, they funded 6 organizations for violence prevention and intervention. They saw a 70% reduction in crime in a 90-day period of time. 6 organizations, 70% reduction in crime. Let those numbers sit with y'all. We have this neighborhood safety fund. 29 organizations were funded. And I don't have an issue with that. But my ask is we need a more comprehensive strategy with addressing violence in the city of Cleveland, involving youth in particular. All right? I also want to extend an invitation to city council members and to Mayor Justin Bibb to come down to JDC and speak with these kids and figure out what strategies can we implement to get out ahead of this. Right? As we're seeing youth being gunned down, not only in the city of Cleveland, but the surrounding suburbs. 2 young girls' homes were shot up over this weekend, 18 and 13. Both were hit with bullets on the 3rd floor of their home. I think we all can realize that this has gotten out of hand. It's gotten out too far ahead of us. So as a collective, we're extending the invitation to this body to put together a comprehensive strategy. And in partnership with some of these businesses, we've created safe zones from Lakeshore to Buckeye, giving these businesses skills and strategies to implement when a crisis is in place. We want them to do their due diligence, not lock their doors. And also the city council, I want y'all to take a proactive approach, right, when it comes to these juveniles. What is influencing these kids? Stop at some of these businesses in your wards that are selling them drug paraphernalia, that are promoting gang violence and promoting gang culture. We have to hold every single entity in our neighborhoods accountable, not just the children that are being exploited. How does a 10-year-old living in King Kennedy gets his hands on a Glock 19 with an extended clip? He doesn't just find it laying around his home. We got a serious issue here. And again, I am pleading with you all to get out ahead of this. We can't lose another child. We can't afford to. 22 kids were murdered in the city of Cleveland last year. 1 is too much. Can we all agree that 1 is too much? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Khalid Hamdallah from North Royalton to talk about moving forward in Cleveland, not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone.
Bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Kareem. My name is Khalid Hamdallah. I'm a Ward 3 resident and one of the many proud Clevelanders who filled these halls over the last 6 months, demanding our voices be heard and calling for a ceasefire resolution to be passed. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to take a quick second to acknowledge Council President and the other members who joined us last weekend at our annual Care Iftar. While I fully understand that you're all politicians and showing face like that is part of the job, I also know that community engagement is extremely important in building bridges and cultivating positive relationships. Last week, on our 17th visit here, we finally got what we had been asking for, sort of. I couldn't help but notice the word ceasefire wasn't even in your resolution. Perhaps that was your indirect way of letting us know that you didn't appreciate our tactics in getting here, or perhaps you were afraid to upset those who insisted that calls for a ceasefire were anti-Semitic and that committing actual war crimes in response to alleged war crimes was justified. But I digress. At the very least, I was hoping for a condemnation of the Israeli government for their consistent and documented breach of international law, not only over the last 6 months, but the last 6+ decades as well. Because it is them, the Israeli government, and them alone who is responsible for the attacks that began the most recent escalation in this so-called war. The inhumane and debilitating conditions that they continue to perpetuate every day will never guarantee them safety, no matter how many billions of dollars in aid our American government sends them every year. And while I would love to come here every week and give you a history lesson on Palestine, we've decided to focus our efforts on demonstrating the direct connections that we in Cleveland have with the fanatical regime that is Israel. We hope and believe that by showing our fellow citizens the interconnectedness with such a fascist foreign government, we can begin to apply pressure on our elected leaders to boycott and divest from these dangerous companies and organizations. Companies like ShotSpotter, now known as Sound Thinking, a discriminatory auditory policing system installed in primarily black neighborhoods on the east side, signed off on by Mayor Bibb. These racist policies and techniques of over-policing while simultaneously cutting funding and resources in our communities that need it most are directly related to the racist and discriminatory policies tested and implemented in Palestine. So when we say free Palestine, it unironically means free Cleveland too. It means that children in Collinwood and Qalqilya both have access to a great education. It means that neither parents in Gaza nor Glenville have to worry about food security. It means that from Nablus to East 29th, people can live in peace with liberty and dignity. We are so tired, but we are so energized. We are in utter disbelief, but our faith has never been stronger. We are fed up, but we are starving for change, and we are coming for the whole damn system. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Ruby Darwish from Westlake. Ruby Darwish is here to talk about the ceasefire, and Ruby is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Is Ruby available? Ruby available. Ruby Darwish. I don't see Ruby Darwish. I'll now move to Zaha Zayed from Olmsted Township to talk about community concerns. Zaya Zayed is representing the PIM. I believe that's the Palestinian Youth Movement, and she's not being paid by anyone. Zaya Zayed, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council. My name is Zaha Zayed, and I'm a member of the Palestinian Youth Movement. I grew up in Cleveland as my family owns a local business in Ward 14, and I'm the mother of an abundant Palestinian little boy who echoes free, free Palestine with every opportunity he gets. I'm here today to speak about my concerns for the Cleveland community and the responsibilities we each have to bring, I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous. I'm here to speak about my concerns for the Cleveland community and responsibilities we each have to bring to worldwide unity. Firstly, the ongoing genocide in Gaza has created a local crisis and divide here in Cleveland. For whatever reason, the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people is apparently too political that the Jewish Federation accused you of giving credence to hateful rhetoric targeting the Jewish community for passing a ceasefire resolution. With this criticism, I sure now you understand a fraction of what Palestinians feel daily for advocating for Palestine. The difference between you and I is that you are being criticized for your vocalism.
Take your time. I'll give you more time if you need it.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I just
Take your
walked
time,
in
and I'll
I
give you
feel
more
super
time
rushed.
if you need it, ma'am.
We local businesses and business owners have been targeted, harassed, and vandalized. There have been many reports of these hate crimes, yet the city continues to do very little for our safety or to bring justice in these unprecedented times. It took 17 weeks for Cleveland to pass a resolution for a ceasefire, the absolute bare minimum to acknowledge the importance of Palestinian lives when the situation is dire. I question your roles as representatives to our city, along with each of your moral values and obligations to humanity. Why did it cost over 40,000 Palestinian lives to pass a ceasefire resolution, with over 25,000 of those being women and children? That does not excuse the murder and bombing of men because they are simply born as Palestinians. These are lives of innocent civilians. Over 75 years of military occupation and 7 months of witnessing a genocide. Who has really opened their eyes? Who chooses to remain blind? I look to each of you to take a stand for humanity and do what is right. The work in our community is just beginning, You have a responsibility that comes along with the chairs in which each of you are sitting. I ask you to unite with your Cleveland constituents as we are now here demanding local divestments. I want to be direct in saying that we are recognizing the interconnected nature of Israel's militarization and how that looks here in the U.S., and that we as a community will no longer be silent in this recognition. Local divestments ensure that this over-militarization is not perpetuated in the Israel government infrastructure. Local divestments show our constituents that you will not contribute to the inhumane treatment of Palestinians in Palestine. Local divestments show your constituents that the city will not contribute to the Israeli government occupation in Palestine. It's time to stop funding Israel's war crimes and instead improve the well-being of our own citizens' lives. Do not use our tax dollars to fund genocide when we ourselves have a crisis in Cleveland before our eyes.
Thank you.
Free Palestine.
Next, we have James Richards. James Richards is from Ward 1. He's here to talk about the Lee Harvard Master Plan. Is James Richards here? James Richards is here to talk about the Lee Harvard Master Plan. Mr. Richards, you have the floor.
Good evening. My name is James Richards, resident of Ward 1, City of Cleveland, Vice President of Cleveland, Ohio, Southeast Residents Organization, also known as Coursera. I came before this body to set the record straight on the non-participation by the community involvement in the Lee Harvard Master Plan, a plan that was created by the City of Cleveland and developers. Since 2018, Coursera has met with various City of Cleveland departments expressing our vision on the development of the Gracemount site and the JFK site. At the Gracemount site, the community would like to see an intergenerational park. Likewise, at the JFK site, the community would like to see a state-of-the-art library and possibly a family play center just like the one at Edgewater Park, and also restoring the Roy Kidd Stadium for health and wellness in the community. When the master plan was presented to the community, our visions were totally ignored. All that was mentioned during the process was housing. There is no power for change greater than the community discovering what it cares about, and the Lee Harvard Master Plan is missing this piece. The Lee Harvard community is not against development. We just want our voice heard and development that represents our Lee Harvard community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Brenda Bickerstaff from Ward 9. She's here to talk about respect for Black women, and she's representing Citizens for a Safer Cleveland, and she is not being paid by anyone.
First, I would like to give my condolences to the young lady that got killed on the other end of my street. I want to name some names. Anthony Johnson, Detective Schroeder, Officer Clark, Wayne Leon. These people, Councilman Casey, died in the line of duty. On the night this young lady got killed in the morning, I saw the officer drop down to his knees. I saw the female bend down and say, "Shots fired, we need backup." So when you sit up there and you laugh and say you don't want the Cleveland Police Commission to succeed, you're laughing at our dead loved ones. My dad was a cop for Cleveland for 33 years. My sister is a cop in Pennsylvania, and my cousin was one in Cleveland who passed away. I pulled a memo that you put on your Facebook page for issue 2024, and you blatantly misled the public and said that commission would get rid of the mayor, the chief, and the safety director, and that is not true. No commission across this country can get rid of those people. It has to be a recall when it's a mayor. Now, I'm gonna say this as far as Black women. The man who was hanging out that car, Mayor Bibb, he's a coward. I saw that man gun that woman down like a dog. He's a coward, and he needs to be held accountable for what he did, and I hope he see me, because I'm not scared of you. And I'm going to say this, I'm here to work with all of you, men and women, but the men of this council, please respect me. Do not step up in my face, because I'm going to take that as a threat. Now, I can go toe-to-toe with you. I can go toe-to-toe with the mayor. I can go toe-to-toe to the law director, but I don't step up in their faces. I don't do that. Joe constantly is always helping us with this commission. He's the only councilman that backed us. And I get it. You guys don't want it. I get it. But at the end of the day, this is what the voters voted for. Now, we waited 100 years for reform in this city with the police. You mean to tell me you can't have a little bit of patience with this commission? You're right, Councilwoman Gray, they messy. And you know I check them. And if you look at that last meeting, I checked them real good. I'll call them out just like I call out the police. A citizen have just as much rights and due process just like all these police standing around here. And that's why we made it for equal and due process. And at the end of the day, let's stop all of this bickering. Let's roll our sleeves up. Let's get together. Let's get the consent decree out of here. And this is what I want you guys to do. Work with the police department so they can come in compliance, because the judge is working with them too.
Time.
Thank you.
Time. Next, we have Keith Troyer from Ward 16 in West Park, and what the city could do to make citizens' lives better. And he is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Is Keith Troyer here? Keith Troyer. Keith Troyer going once, Keith Troyer going twice. Last on the list, we have Bashir Jones. Bashir Jones is from the Huff Superior Ward 7 area, here to talk about violence in Cleveland. He is not representing anyone, and he is not being paid by anyone. Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. I'm so happy to be here with you. It's funny, you know, Councilman McCormick and I, we fought for public comment, and I couldn't even get on it. It took me 4 or 5 weeks to have the opportunity to be here, and it's just so humbling as life goes up and goes down. You know, to Mayor Bibbs and to Council President and to the council members, this time that we are living in, I wanted to come here and speak to you as people of faith. As you know, we're in the month of Ramadan right now, for those who are Muslims, and for our Christian brothers and sisters having experienced Easter. And I want you to think of something. What is going on in our society where many of you who I know, we're friends, we had great times together. What is going on in our society that you are not able to speak what I know is in your heart? I know it's in your heart. There is no way that we can say that we love that Palestinian Jew named Jesus and not have any love and respect and honor and empathy for the Palestinian people. I want to say to you that if you say what happened in Gaza is a result of October 7th, then what you're saying is the violence that's going on in Cleveland is a result of the Kia boys. You are looking at the what, and you're not paying attention to the why. And the sad part about it, as a person who was the first Muslim city councilman here in Cleveland history, to see my friends be silent. And I know you're not silent because you have a bad heart, but the silence is a result of the society that we live in, that we are afraid to speak what's on our heart. Whether you're Jewish, you're Christian, you're Muslim, none of that stuff matters. As parents, you can't help but to see these babies who have died overseas and feel something in your heart. I know you do. I know you do. But the sad part about it is that we're not able to say anything out of the fear. I want to say to my Palestinian brothers and sisters that I stand with you for the freedom of Gaza. I stand with you for the freedom of Gaza, but at the same time, I need for you to stand with me on what's happening on St. Clair, in Superior, We need for you to stand up and fight for us, and there has to be a strong black and brown coalition so that we understand that what's happening in Gaza as far as the genocide, this genocide is taking place right here in America, right here in our neighborhoods. So I say to Mayor Bibbs, I say to you, brother, that I'm here to support you. I'm here to support you. I want to work with you any way that I can work with you, because until we have a stronger east side of Cleveland, and until poor people in the city are able to experience the same type of life of anybody else, then Cleveland will not thrive. It will not be successful until St. Clair look like Lorraine, until Superior look like Detroit. It will not get better. So, as your brother, I stand for Gaza. And for my brothers and sisters who are here, stop talking about Hamas. You never even heard of Hamas until the news start talking about it. But the same people who talk about Hamas is the same people who call us thugs. So we understand this rhetoric of these words that are used and thrown around.
Time.
But you have no knowledge about it. Council President, thank you. Mayor, I look forward to working with you, brother. To my colleagues, I'm so happy to see you. And I hope, please don't lose your heart. I know your hearts. Don't lose your heart because of the political climate. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, share communications. There are no communications. Condolence resolutions.
Resolutions of condolence by Councilmember Griffin for Stella Mae Cox Whitley, by Councilmember Hairston for Phyllis R. Hagler Duncan.
Are there any other condolence resolutions? Seeing no other condolence resolutions, will all members rise for a moment of silence? Thank you. Are there any congratulatory resolutions?
Resolutions of congratulations by Councilmember Griffin for Daisy Leigh McMillan, by Councilmember Griffin for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Ohio on their 175th anniversary, by Councilmember Griffin for Thomas J. Coyne, by Councilmember Griffin for Joyce Deaver, by Councilmember Griffin for Marilyn Madigan, by Councilmember Griffin for John T. O'Neill, by Councilmember Griffin for Sister Catherine Walsh, CSA, by Councilmember Starr for Reverend, Reverend Dr. Elmore Torbert. Resolutions, of appreciation by Councilmember Slife for Seminarian Mitchell Timothy Carson.
Thank you. There are no presentations. First reading emergency ordinances referred for administrative review and committee review.
Ordinance 368, 20.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see Mike Polensik. Councilman Polensik, please, Sheriff.
Chairman, Madam Clerk, my honorable colleagues, for congratulatory, would the clerk please hold out a number for Andre Bernier and Joe Pakanakis. I was notified today both of them are retiring. Thank you.
So noted.
Councilman Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you please hold out a number for Mark Jenkins?
So noted. Any other? Okay. Madam Clerk, please move to first reading emergency ordinances referred for administrative review and committee review.
Ordinance 368, 2024, by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Community Development to administer the Community Engagement Healthy Home Initiative, to enter into one or more contracts with various community development corporations for the purpose of hiring community engagement specialists by neighborhood to improve the quality of life for residents and the city's housing stock, to enter into professional services contracts for the acquisition of software and training to conduct the initiative, and to make purchases of materials, equipment, supplies, and services needed to conduct the initiative. Ordinance 369, 2024, by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, to amend Section 3 of Ordinance 531, 2021, relating to accepting funding from the United States Treasury Department for purposes of implementing the Emergency Rental Assistance Program established under the American Rescue Act Plan Act of 2021 and authorizing contracts to implement. Ordinance 370, 2024, by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, to amend the first whereas clause in Section 1 of Ordinance 1253, 2019, passed October 21st, 2019. Repeal the third whereas clause and supplement the ordinance by adding new section 1A relating to the authorizing the Director of Community Development to be a co-applicant and co-grantee with Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority, which will allow CMHA to accept HUD funding to implement the Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant. Ordinance 371, 2024, by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Wausau Equipment Company for services, maintenance, inspections, and parts necessary to maintain Wausau snow removal equipment for the various divisions of the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 372, 2024, by Councilmembers McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise first option to renew a contract with BP Products North America for lease of city-owned property commonly known as the North Fuel Farm, located at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport for the purpose of operating an aviation fuel storage and handling facility. Ordinance 373, 2024, by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more contracts of LED video display boards with training, if necessary, for 5251 North Marginal Road, including labor and materials needed to remove and dispose of the existing video boards and labor, installation and maintenance of the new equipment for the Division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities, for a period of 2 years. Ordinance 386, 2024, by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Finance and/or Public Utilities to either exercise first option to renew under the Sustainable Ohio Public Energy Council contract entered into under Ordinance 631, 2023, or to enter into an amendment to the SOPEC contract to change the options to renew from 2 one-year options to renew to 1 two-year option to renew, exercisable by the appropriate director, and to further authorize exercising such option. Ordinance 387, 2024, by Councilmembers McCormack and Slife, to amend Section 19603 of the Codified Ordinances as amended by Ordinance 405-10 relating to residential parking tax exemption. Ordinance 391, 2024, by Councilmember Casey, authorizing and directing the Director of Law to fully enforce the provisions of the Ohio Revised Code, Section 9.67, that imposes restrictions on the owner of a professional sports team that uses a tax-supported facility and that receives financial assistance from the state or the city.
First reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 374, 2024, by Councilmember McCormack, consenting and approving the issuance of a permit for the Zombie Run and Lurch event on September 22, 2024, managed by Hermes Sports and Events. Ordinance 388, 2024, by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request to amend sections 367.99, 3103.09, 3104.02, 3104.06, 3106.01, 05, and 06 of the Codified Ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, as amended by Ordinance 1039, 2023, relating to the criminal and civil enforcement and vacant property registration and inspections.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Slife, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Spencer.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moorer, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moorer, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Thank you. First reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 389, 2024, by Councilmember Griffin, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a C2, C2X, and D6 liquor permit to 130 09 Buckeye Road. Resolution 390, 2024 by Councilmember Harsh, withdrawing an objection to a new C1 liquor permit at 5603 Memphis Avenue and repealing Resolution 1144, 2023, objecting to said permit.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Slife, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage. Seconded by Councilmember Spencer.
Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading, emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 29, 2024, by Council Members McCormack, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, accepting the offer of dedication of public right-of-way and public improvements shown on the recorded plat for Moltke Court. Ordinance 162, 2024, by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of recycled or virgin asphalt concrete for the Division of Streets, Department of Public Works, for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Works. Ordinance 190, 2024, by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Works to enter into one or more contracts without competitive bidding with Custom Truck One Source for the purchase of 2 grapple trucks for the Division of Waste Collection and Disposal, Department of Public Works. Ordinance 231, 2024, by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Works to apply for and accept a grant from the Ohio Department of Education for the 2024 Summer Food Service Program at Camp George Forbes, authorizing the purchase by requirement contract of breakfast and lunches of food products, beverages, condiments, and paper products to implement the grant for the Division of Recreation, Department of Public Works, and authorizing the Director to contract with various nonprofit organizations for the implementation of the program. Ordinance 233, 2024, as amended, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with United States Postal Service for the lease of certain city-owned property generally located at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, South Cargo Road, Building 220, to maintain and operate a warehouse, sorting facility, and post office retail store. Ordinance 260, 2024, by Council Members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into one or more contracts with City Architecture for the purpose of establishing and executing a public engagement coordination program for the Office of Capital Projects for a period of 2 years. Ordinance 315, 2024, by Council Member Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the issuance and sale of revenue refunding bonds to refund outstanding revenue bonds of the Core City Program for the economic and community development in the city, authorizing a tender and/or exchange program with respect to refunding of outstanding revenue bonds of the Core City Program, and providing for the appointment of professionals and authorizing documents with respect thereto, and authorizing related matters. Ordinance 316, 2024, by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of general obligation refunding bonds to refund currently outstanding general obligation bonds of the city to obtain debt service savings or restructure the city's outstanding debt, authorizing a tender and/or exchange program with respect to general obligation refunding bonds, and providing for the appointment of professionals and authorizing documents with respect thereto, and authorizing and approving related matters. Ordinance 317, 2024, by Councilmember Griffin, by departmental request, authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of subordinate lien income tax refunding bonds to refund currently outstanding general obligation and subordinate lien income tax bonds of the city to obtain debt service savings or restructure the city's outstanding debt, authorizing a tender and/or exchange program with respect to subordinate lien income tax refunding bonds, and providing for the appointment of professionals and authorizing documents with respect thereto, and authorizing and approving related matters. Ordinance 318-2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the issuance and sale of water revenue obligations to refund outstanding water revenue obligations, authorizing agreements related to the obligations, authorizing a tender and/or exchange program with respect to the refunding of water revenue obligations, and providing for the appointment of professionals and authorizing documents with respect thereto, and authorizing and approving related matters. Ordinance 319-2024 as amended by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the establishment of and issuance by the City of Airport System subordinated indebtedness in the form of revolving lines of credit and/or commercial paper program in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $175 million at any one time to pay costs of improving the airport system, authorizing one or more revolving credit agreements, reimbursement agreements, official statements, dealer agreements, supplemental indentures, notes evidencing subordinated indebtedness, and other agreements related to subordinated indebtedness, and authorizing and approving related matters.
Thank you. Read a motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Slife, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Spencer.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 344-2024 by Council Members Conwell, Griffin, McCormack, Santana, Bishop, Hairston, Casey, Polensek, and Spencer, recognizing March 2024 as National Women's History Month.
Thank you. Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Slife, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Spencer.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Thank you. Call the roll on adoption.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 15 yeas.
Thank you. Are there any introductions? Any introductions? No introductions. Are there any announcements? Any announcements? Just to remind everyone, we will not be meeting next Monday, April the 8th. It will be the eclipse. I will encourage everybody to go to Councilman Polensek's meeting on Wednesday. If anybody wants to get updates on special acknowledgments and special road closures and other things regarding the eclipse, and I'm sure the administration will have websites and other things to help navigate. But it's going to be a busy weekend in Cleveland, so I'd encourage everybody to enjoy it, but also educate your residents on the safest way possible to enjoy it. Please proceed with announcements. Councilman Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Madam Clerk, Honorable Mayor, members of the administration, members of City Council. Again, you touched on, Mr. Chairman, Wednesday, anyone interested in hearing what the plans are, the protocol will be in place for the total eclipse, which will take place. You're more than welcome to attend. We hope to hear from the Safety Director, Chief of Police, Department of Public Works, whoever there can give us an update. We know there's going to be a large number of people coming into Cleveland. And also we hope to hear an update on the 52 cadets that were seated on on March 25th. So we hope to get an update on that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're on announcements right now, so anybody else have any other announcements? Just announcements. Okay, I'll move now to miscellaneous. Miscellaneous? Any miscellaneous? Any other miscellaneous? Councilman Chris Harsh, you have 4 minutes, but I'm going to reset you.
Before I get to the eclipse, today is April. It's April 1st. And the eclipse is April 8th, so we should take a moment today to think about the stadium in depth. I know a lot of people are talking about refurbishing the stadium on the lakefront. A lot of people want to see a dome out by the airport. I even saw a guy on Twitter today saying we should build a stadium in the lake, floating. But that's kind of crazy because stadiums can't float. What we should do, Mr. President, is build the stadium under the lake. Cargill has already got this project started for us. There's a big cavity down there. Our friends at Neo RSD have boring equipment. We could have a climate-controlled, year-round facility. It's halfway dug out. It would be a global destination for music acts, especially those who are aging, because the atmosphere is very salty. It preserves people. And the only way to add more salt to the conversation is probably to build a stadium in a salt mine. So, and if you're a Browns fan for the last 25 years, you'll appreciate what the officiating has done to us. Having more salt to throw at the team would be a good thing. So, but today's April 1st. Next Monday is April 8th, and the eclipse is coming. I just want to, if any employers out there haven't decided what they're doing, please give your people a few minutes to walk outside. This is a almost literally once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We won't have another eclipse in Cleveland until like 44 or something like that. And if, for perspective, it's the generation after Star Trek, The Next Generation. We won't have another opportunity to see an eclipse in North America for like another 70 years, I think in 29 something. So if we all live to be 100, we can see another eclipse in North America. But employers should all let their employees walk outside and experience this most literally astronomical phenomenon. I've got eclipse glasses. If any of our friends in the audience tonight want a couple, I've got some. I hope the administration is stocked up, but I got you covered, Councilman. And the libraries and the Science Center are all going to have viewing events. The CMSD is canceled, so take the kids somewhere educational and enjoy this with your friends and family. If you need any glasses, let me know. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Harsh is our resident eclipse expert. So, all right, anybody else? Anybody else? All right, seeing nobody else, we're going to have an entertaining night of basketball and get out of here early. Madam Clerk, please excuse the absences. I just told her to excuse the absences. We gone, Rochelle. We out here today.
Wait a minute. Let me excuse the absence by Council Member Slife, that the absence of Council Members House, Jones, and Starr are hereby excused. Seconded by Council Member Spencer.
This council is adjourned to the call of the chair. The next meeting of council will be on April the 15th, 2024.